is the same way. It's very private, it's very personal. You don't go make people to think like you. To them it's stupid. You have to think your way, I have to think my way. If there's a connection, it'll be there, you know. Even their love. You know, we say to a person, we love you, we use a lot of words, this and that and that. Native, they don't do that. They stay together. In the course of time, I might grow to love or hate. But it comes just like osmosis pressure. They're together, from him goes to her, from her goes to him. And an exchange takes place. And that's how love comes. Essentially, they're shy people. You know, lots of time people, they think they're arrogant. You know, always Indian, the way they talk. It's not arrogance at all. It's just they're shy. They're overwhelmed by our attitude of chauvinistic way that we're demonstrative, chauvinistic, we're descriptive, and they get overwhelmed. To them, all of things that you're saying is BS. Just sit down, don't talk. If the talk comes, we'll talk. We will see each other, we will know. Why are you trying to tell me who you are when you're sitting beside me? I will know you. So, the complaint even is not so much that, okay, the white man came and took our land, really. I don't think they have a problem. They're not jealous that way, oh, you come and took our land, or you stay there, don't bother us. We're fine with you. But we overwhelmed their cultures, we stepped on it, we destroyed it. That is the hardest part, actually. You know, what they were is innocent. This innocence, though, was not a choice. Is that how they were grown? When white man came, this innocence became a choice. And some of them, they lost it. This is what they became alcoholic. There was a choice now, to be that way or not. And there they lost it. Some, very few of them, they just went a different way. So, I remember one of them in Eisenberg was telling me that, you know, this alcoholism that's in here, even Bishop Tutu came here and somehow he saw there's too much alcoholism here. There's like a third world country. He said to me, you know, all white people brought it here. I told him, my friend, look at that boy standing there. It was David Troop. He was a white man. He was a Baha'i. He came with me to reserve. I said, look at him, he's smoking, eh? He said, yeah. I said, guess who made him a smoker? He had a little smile. I said, you guys introduced tobacco, didn't you? I didn't know that before. So they gave you alcohol, you gave them tobacco. It's an exchange, eh? Not very good. Some of them, they took it. But there's something unique about them, their resilience. It's so amazing, this resilience of the native people. Western people, basically like an acid, this Western culture dissolves every damn culture in the world. You come from China, from anywhere in the world, except Indian. East Indians are very, very much shielded too. Today, not as much. So they come down here, they get dissolved. Western way penetrates them, their view changes, their article changes. Same like the rest of the people. Canada has that to it. This Western culture is like that. But hasn't changed natives. Even native try to change it, it's not possible. The Western way that's made by the Anglo-Saxon has perverted them too. Like a computer. That, you know, mankind, sometimes people, they make in a movie, computer takes over the culture, takes over the people. This civilization of white man has taken over them, but natives are so strong. If 10% of a person is native, he's more tendency towards the being native. Their gene is so dominant. There's something very, very peculiar about that. Okay. The worst thing that happened to them during the residential schooling, that they kidnaps their kids from the parents and this and that. They'll force them sometimes, they rape them, they make them to speak English, beat them, abuse them, a child, as much as you could do, curse of God and Anglican Church for what they've done. God will never forgive them. But still the guy's native. He's depressed, he drinks, but he's still native. There's something I said is unique, you can't convert that. It's so original, you know. So, but they're like a movie, it starts from the middle. This kind of a natives, I've seen them. See them sometimes in downtown. As if something in there, it tells us that, how long you've been here? 200 years, 300 years? You built this civilization? I know you win for now. You're winning, but you're gonna go down. We've been here 10,000, 20,000 years. We could have done what you've done. Our ancestors, they did not choose to do this way. They didn't want to. They found there's an easier way to live. A measure of austerity, simplicity. Doesn't need to be complicated. Extras are not going to make you happier. Because they've been here longer than us. There's something in that essence of their character that we have to still realize what that is and try to adhere to it and adopt it if possible. So, I'm not trying to speak about Anglo-Saxons and Canadians here as an expert. No. I'm just a guy passing through. And I have eyes and brains and soul. I observe things, you know, in my way, and these are my observations. Right or wrong, it's just how I see things. But in my opinion, they have to be really studied properly, which is very hard to study because everything you're going to say is going to be word and descriptions. It's difficult. You just have to go there with them to become like them. That's the only way you can understand native ways. You have to be there, become them. It's like it's like addictive. If you're there with them, you don't want to come out. There's something to it. And I've seen that depictions of Dancing with the Wolves, or that James Fenimore Cooper, the movie The Last of the Mohicans. How these white people, when they're in there, they couldn't change any other ways. It is a depth to it, you know. We have to understand what it is and try to create a grammar of it, an alphabet to explain what it is, so how we can enter in there, in their system, because we've been here, what, couple hundred years, they've been here 20,000s. Some of the evidences are telling us that right around British Columbia, they've been very, very old. So, I'm trying to create that mediation, rather than adapter, to see if I can create connections between Anglo-Saxons and natives by drawing my own pictures, you know. As a man who deals with the religions and the spirituality and whatnot, I've seen always this in the mankind. Doesn't matter where you're coming from. The strong and the big who end up winning, and the weak, the smaller, that loses. We have a tendency towards the guy who lost, towards the guy who's smaller. As a fight happens between a big man and a small man, people have a tendency to go for the small guys, because he says, you know, in the fight. But truly, that's not the case. We have to go to see who instigated it, who started it first, you see. Just because the guy is bigger doesn't mean he's at fault. I didn't start this. So I said to myself, just matter of argument. If native people end up going to England and took over, what would they do? I know natives, this supposition is wrong because the culture would not allow them to do that, but let's say they evolved a million years from now. They end up going there, trying to go there. What would they do? We have seen what they've done here to each other. Some of these Hurons, for example, they're pretty cruel, you know. So it's not to say that because English they came here first, so we have to attack them because they're bigger and stronger and they knew a lot more, so that we are innocent, and if we were in their place, it would have been better. I'm just saying it's difficult, okay, to say which way is really more a spiritual person. Before Englishman comes here, there was a lot of struggle and fights here, you know. Lots of them, and you know it. They hated each other. And if that culture of English and French was so bad, how come first they came here, they were so attracted to them, as if it's coming from God? Immediately they got the alcohol bottle from them and started to drink. There was no mechanism to stop them, you know. When it became a choice, they let go of their spiritualities and native ways, they came this way. Not all of them. So, we have to get deeper inside to see this encounter of the West and the East. I don't know, English is West too, actually. The Europeans and the native people in Canada in particular. To me, there had been good and bad both in this encounter for both parties. So, I've written some of it. The first thing, as I said, it was that the culture of the native culture was overwhelmed. They were depicted, they found themselves that they're totally nobody, savages, because they don't have these tools, these means, this way of dressing. All of that was very strange. They felt belittled, you know, because of their attachment towards the material, the way they were. They were belittled very heavily, you know, by the people, the white people. Well, the bad thing was alcohol that was introduced to them, although they ended up giving them smoking too. Definitely, well, the worst one of all was this teaching of Christianity to these spiritual people, and basically killing the religions, what was inherited as a legacy of mankind by the satanic churches of Jesus Christ. The churchianity of the time did that. And they kidnapped children from their families, forced them to speak English and become Christians. Amazingly, the government of Canada at the time went for it, with it. The government that since have apologized and reimbursed people, they found that it's wrong. This is the good about Canadians. When they find it's wrong, there's no stubbornness. They accept it, they come back. Never heard churches yet apologizing. No. They did all the rapings and abuse. Government didn't. But they haven't come in front and do anything. So another worst thing to them was this sickness that was brought by the white people, the chicken pox, smallpox and all that, devastated the whole nations here. We were talking about that a little bit. It was unintentional, although there are parts that sometimes intentionally they wanted to kill them, you know, they use that. Anyways, for me the worst of them all really is this creation of reservations to put people into some area. I will be speaking very much about that and what my opinion of that is. Handicapping people in that area, limiting them, and basically like ghettos as far as I'm concerned. But native, they went for it. I would have known if I was a native, I would not accepted. But at the time they had no choice, so they went. I think I mentioned a few things that happened, bad things. We have to somehow try to be fair about it and describe the situation, what did it entail in that. Maybe we all know a little bit more and we don't bug each other that much on that. I've said before, English people, in my opinion, were chosen by God to come and build Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand. So they were the best available. Any other nations, I'll tell you that right now, would have been worst. And no nation coming here also is not possible. I think Native people were nice enough that if you believe in God's plan, God planned the native to go there, that the English people to come here. They somehow met each other because of their resilience of staying in this continent so long. So somebody from that side reached them. They were, thanks God, natives. Because if it was any other nations, I would have been really, really devastating, a lot worse. And alcohol is what the culture of the English people were. Muslims, they don't drink, but Christians do. And alcohol was not something that they gave it to native and they were not consuming themselves. They're doing it themselves. There's more alcoholic among the white people than there are native people, even right now. So as a native, they introduced tobacco and all that to them. So tobacco probably killed more than alcohol. There wasn't a mechanism among the native people that to stop these things. And if it was that they could have done something about it, this residential school cut the children from their mothers and fathers and cut a huge drift between them. As far as the sickness and whatnot, that's just a part of the nature. And as I said, we don't know who would have thought about that, So, the worst of them all, as I said, it was this church that they create this systematic abuse to them. But it's proven right now it was wrong. So when the two nations, they come and fight, or they come close together, there's three wars that's going to happen. Because there's three troops in that. Spiritual values, social values, economical values. Sometimes people physically overcome nations, but in the course of time, spiritually they win them. It happened in Iran when Mongols horde attacked Iran. They couldn't defeat Iranians cultural-wise. They themselves end up becoming Muslims. The other time when Arabs attacked Iran, Iranians they lost physically. They overcome later on physically, but culturally they lost. Their culture was not strong enough. In this case, in the last 2-3 centuries that the Anglo-Saxons have started Canada, it's a great country. I've spoken before a message to them. Unless something seriously is done, the whole idea of Canada will be toppled. So then the native ways, we know they were there so long, it's going to come back to be actually right. There's something in the native people that it has to become a part, integral part of the Canadian civilizations, okay? The anthropology and all that tells us that they were tool makers and they had necessary things that they needed 20,000 years ago, or even more. Just like the same people as in Europe and other places, in maybe even more advanced than Europe, but even in India, they're the same. So all of us, we developed in every part of the world in a way. Natives developed this way. I think this trend that they came down here to be what they were in Canada, we met them, as not that they could have not become like us, they just didn't want to. It seems the plan of God is to create something else, and a stronger human being, mentally, inside, inwardly, that's content, that's happy with little, and more sophisticated soul than innocence that they have. We have to understand what it is and make it a part of the integral part of our us, you know. So there are things that you could read and learn. There are things you can't read and learn. You have to earn it. Love is one of them. You can't read about love. You can read how a car works, but you can't read how love works. It's an experience. You have to do it. So, to understand native ways, you have to just be with them. As I said, like a osmosis pressure, they go into you. Some of us it takes a few months, sometimes a few years. Then you know what they are. It's very hard to explain it, but that's what we need to understand and to really make it to become an integral part of who we are and what we are. So this is a little bit of my observations about the Indian theory of life, if you can theorize it. You need great psychologists, the spiritual people probably, the East and West, to come together to understand what it is. And that's about it right now. I'm going to be next time, as a Canadian, to think, what do we do to solve some of these problems and bring back this culture of the native culture into our culture, to make it a part of us. That's my topic for the next time.